All righty. And it looks like we are live. Da, da, da. How's it going, guys? Just checking some settings really quick here. I think we're good. Awesome. How's it going, everyone? Thank you so much for joining. Good morning or good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you may be. Hello. Hello, SB. And of course, it is so good to be here. I love this. I love doing this with you guys. Let's see. 11 people, 14. Oh wow, we got people climbing in here. One, hello. Hello. What's up, John? Oh, this is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to this. Happy Monday. So I am going to give it another minute or so, let people trickle in before we go ahead and dive in. I do have a couple of questions that were asked in the Facebook group in advance, so I'll definitely be addressing those first. But I'm going to do my best to get to as many questions as I can. I'm going in order. If I miss anybody, sincerely apologize. Just give me a shout. Let me know. Hello, everyone. Oh, my goodness. Mondays are popping. That's crazy. Who knew? You are so welcome, Orange Tiger. I love that name. Oh, can everybody hear me and see me okay? I should probably triple check and confirm that all my settings are right. If anybody wants to just thumbs up or thumbs down if you can hear me and see me. That would be awesome. Okay, good. Awesome. Thank you, Hera. Thank you for the heads up. Awesome. How are you guys doing? Happy Monday. Very cool. And welcome Friday. I saw your message that this was the first live that you've been to, so thank you for joining and welcome. I'm good, May. How are you? Hello, Todd G. Hello, Lau. Hello, May. Awesome. Simone, hello. Girl, I was just thinking about you. Thank you for joining. We have catching up to do soon. Awesome. All right. Just another couple seconds or so. We'll jump in. Oh, this is going to be a good one. Mimi, hi. Hello. All my favorite people are showing up. This is making me super happy. Hello, Katie. Welcome. I did see the question. And thank you for being able to drop in. Ooh. All right. I won't keep you guys waiting much longer. We'll go ahead and dive into some questions here in just a moment. Sound is good. Video is good. Oh, SB, thank you. Oh, thank you for the super chat. I have to tell my full-time gig boss about my part-time gig. I'm visualizing a good conversation and affirming, but nervous she may not react well. And I think that's a fair assumption to, if there's schedule conflicts, of course, that can be nerve-wracking, but always go back to the first principle. Always go back to the first principle. And that goes for any time that we're feeling nervous, any time that we're maybe unsure or things are looking uncertain, always remember to go back to the first principle. Remember who you are. You got this. You got this. Your boss is going to be just fine. Thank you for the compliment. Thank you, May. Oh, these are okay. We got some good questions rolling in. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's go ahead and get started. Rose, you're Friday. Oh, Rose, hello. Yay. All right. We're good to go. We're good to go. Thank you again, you guys, for joining me this morning or afternoon. I know it's evening in some parts, where some of you are. I am super excited to get started and jumping into this today. I do want to make a really quick plug before we dive into this. Just want to give you guys a heads up. I am starting my group coaching program. It was supposed to be starting today. It got bumped a week because I got sick last week. So I was out of the game for a little bit, but there's still a couple of spots available. I've been working on this for over a year. I am super excited to launch this thing. So if you're interested in more information, definitely check out the description box. Links down there. And again, it's going to be amazing. With that said, let's go ahead because we've got a lot of questions piling in and I don't want to get in the weeds. So, okay. Fabulous Dakota asks, what should we declare during the I am meditation? Does the sentence need to start with I am? Can we change multiple things successfully in one session? That is a really good question. So for anyone who might not know or have maybe not heard of it before, the I am meditation is a technique that was explained in the book Your Faith is Your Fortune by Neville Goddard. And essentially, it is almost a form of self-inquiry. And it's where, we get into a deeply relaxed state and we begin to say the words, I am. And we just say, I am. We don't condition it with anything. And that kind of goes to answer your question. Initially, we don't want to condition it with anything. We just want to focus on being. We just want to focus on awareness and becoming more and more observant of the observer. Who is that is aware of your thoughts? As you get deeper into the meditation, you'll get to a point where it feels like an expansion. It feels like you're no longer confined to your body. It sounds very bizarre, and it is an incredible experience. But when you get to that point, then you can condition however you want it to. So instead of saying I am, you can finish that. So I am loved. I am blessed. I am successful, whatever it may be. Whatever it may be. And the whole point of the meditation is to become familiar again with unconditioned consciousness, to detach from anything that no longer serves us, essentially. But if you're interested in finding out more about it, definitely read Your Faith is Your Fortune, and it's a chapter called Fishing. I'll leave it down in the description box below, actually. Let me see. Lau asks, I'm going through a bad circumstance. Do you have any tips on changing the old story in the middle of the 3D in your face 24/7? So, first and foremost, I'm really sorry to hear that things have not been well, at least circumstantially, and it's been a bit of a struggle as of late. As far as tips on changing the old story, that is probably arguably one of the most challenging aspects in this journey, in this process, is detachment from the 3D. Or, how do we not react to the 3D circumstances when we are so conditioned to react to 3D circumstances, right? And that's something that's going to be different for everybody. But really, the biggest thing that helped me when it came to how to avoid, how to not spiral from the 3D, especially when things were in your face, things were, like you couldn't avoid it, so to speak. Practicing the art of detachment, practicing the art of just removing myself from the 3D quite literally. So meditation, going into imagination, even if it was just taking 5 minutes and going somewhere, sitting down, closing my eyes, and just shutting out the world around me and focusing on my breath, focusing on just one thing, and everything else can go away for a minute. Sometimes it really did come down to that, especially when it got very overwhelming. And it is something that takes practice because, again, our whole lives we have been conditioned to 3D circumstance. So this is rooted within us at a subconscious level. So if you can take 5 minutes whenever you can, whenever you need to, and just shut the world out around you, close your eyes, go within, and just let everything be for a moment. And it takes practice, but it does get easier. It does get easier. Hello, Mina. Oh my goodness. Lots and lots of questions here. And I do want to make sure, actually, I'm going to do that right now. I did get a couple of really good questions asked in my Facebook group, which, by the way, if you want to join, that link is in the description below. But a couple of really good questions. While we're on the topic of 3D circumstances, these questions are in the same vein, and I want to make sure that they get addressed as well. Let me see. I'm going to pull up here in just a minute. Okay, well, the first one, I'm going to address the first one, and that's talking about perfectionism. Basically, how do we deal with perfectionism when it comes to manifestation? And how do we deal with the feeling like we need to be perfect when it comes to the law, when it comes to the techniques and how we apply this? And I think this is a big one. I think that this is the one that a lot of people struggle with. I know I certainly did. I think a lot of people can relate because there seems to be an inherent fear that if we don't do this perfectly to a T, we're going to screw everything up and then nothing's going to happen and we're going to, be forever stuck in limbo, basically. This is something that, yeah, I certainly had a lot of fear around this myself and a lot of battles around this with myself. And that sense of perfectionism, it does stem from a place of lack of trust. It's a lack of trust within ourselves. It's a lack of trust in the law, right? And there could be a variety of factors as to, going into the details as to like specifically for each person, it may be different, whether that's also contributing from a lack of, confidence in ourselves, feeling like we've got this, not feeling secure. It stems from a place of insecurity, a state of insecurity. So we really feel like we have to go above and beyond to overcompensate that feeling of insecurity and really making sure that we don't screw this up, so to speak. So that's where a lot of the, perfectionism comes from, and really giving ourselves a hard time about making sure that we get this absolutely right, asking a million questions, constantly doubting ourselves, wondering if we're doing this right and all of that. It definitely stems from a place of just not feeling secure in ourselves, in our ability, and in the law, right? Even if we believe in the law, even if we do believe that what we imagine becomes our reality, there's a lot of a sense of trust in our ability to consciously control the law, consciously control our outcomes. So, and really the best way to overcome this is through practice, is through testing the law, things that do help us bit by bit build our faith, you know, self-awareness, observation, becoming more aware of our own patterns, becoming more aware of our own, habits and our own rituals and the things that we do, because we begin to see more and more how we operate. And from there, we can get a better sense of why things are happening and why things are showing up in the way that they are. So it's it is a combination of testing, growing our faith, and just buying that pearl. Buying that pearl. Yeah. But that is a big one. I thought that was a really good question and a really good point to bring up, because it's something that I know a lot of people do struggle with, and I certainly did too. Yeah. And the other question that I want to get to from the Facebook group is one asking about 3 strategies for persisting. My 3 top strategies for persisting, despite, the 3D circumstance or lack of 3D circumstance. Um, Rose made a good point here. I've never been known for patience. And that was my problem too. And like a lot of conscious creators, I keep finding myself, or I find keeping my mood/state in a good place when nothing seems to be moving my biggest challenge. And then if I start to feel low or lonely, I worry that I'm only pushing my desires even further away, because I'm not embodying the state of the wish fulfilled, and it can all start to feel a bit hopeless. So what techniques or practices have you found most effective in keeping the faith and persisting despite these, 3D circumstance or lack of 3D circumstance? And again, that kind of ties into the last couple of questions, and one that a lot of people do struggle with. And that's, how do we deal with the 3D? How do we find a way to keep going? How do we find the motivation to keep going sometimes when it feels like we're doing everything right, but nothing is happening? It's like the silence and the unmovement is deafening. And I completely relate to that. I think, as Rose mentioned in this question, a lot of people can relate to that feeling, because it can create sort of its own feedback loop in which we get frustrated from lack of movement, and then we get fearful because we got frustrated that, oh God, now I screwed all this up. And so, again, I think the top 3 strategies, I love how you put that too. Love that, Rose. The top 3 strategies, if I had to say, first and foremost would be the self-observation, and that's step 1 in Neville Goddard's fundamentals when it comes to manifesting. Becoming more and more aware of what we're doing and the emotions that, like, what we're entertaining, and that's something that, some people do really focus on from the get-go, but a lot of times it gets overlooked. We're running on autopilot the vast majority of the time, so it can be really easy for us to overlook what we are doing and what we are dwelling in. We may be having inner conversations and inner arguments half the day and not even really be consciously aware that we're doing so. So the more that you become aware, the more that you see, like, I can see clear as day how this manifested, which in and of itself builds the faith, right? Because again, this comes down to lack of faith in the law. If there was 100% faith in the law, we would not worry. It wouldn't matter. 3D circumstances or not, wouldn't faze us. So building that trust and building that faith, first strategy is self-observation. becoming more and more aware of our own patterns and what we're doing, and seeing the correlation between our own inner dialogues and our own inner conversations and the 3D circumstances, because they're one and the same. And I guess for number 2, strategies for persistence would be testing the law. And one thing that I did that was incredibly helpful for me was I turned it into a game. I started to, when I was very new to the law and I was testing it, as Neville consistently and constantly told people to do, I started to just play with the idea, so I wasn't, I didn't have a whole lot of weight at first. I was testing it with smaller things and I was just seeing what would happen. I was treating it in a very almost playful way, which by doing so did help remove a considerable amount of resistance and doubt around it. And the more that, I just approached it from a very kind of nonchalant and playful way, the more things would show up, the more I would see things come to pass. And of course, as that happens, your faith is stronger and stronger naturally. So self-observation and testing law, 2 big ones. And then for number 3, I think it's coming back to the first principle again. I think it's coming back and just reminding ourselves anytime that we're questioning, we're doubting, there's a huge unknown factor and we may be stressing about it or freaking out about it. Just take a moment and stop what you're doing and just retreat from the 3D world, retreat from the carnal world. By that, I mean, just close your eyes and go within for a moment. Shut everything else around you for a moment and just center yourself and just remember that first principle. Those that I probably have to say are the things that would help me the most in overcoming any sort of those fears and those limiting beliefs and the logic and reasoning behind the naysay mind, essentially. Those were the things that probably helped me the most as far as effectiveness goes. But again, I thought those were really, really great questions. I wanted to make sure to get those answered before I forgot. And let's see. Go back here. Tamara says, question, may I combine SATS and Lullaby method? Just imagine my SP holding my hand while feeling satisfied, grateful, and repeating a statement such as, thank you, knew it was going to happen. And I love this question. And the short answer is absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, Lullaby method is my go-to. If I had to say that, a technique that I go back to most often would be the Lullaby method. It's, just falling asleep in a feeling is incredible, and there's not a whole lot there that we can get twisted up in. And what happens for me naturally sometimes, as I'm, conjuring this feeling, as I'm really, settling into this feeling and imagination, is I'll have a scene materialize without even trying. Like my mind will naturally begin to go to the visual representation of that feeling. So, not unintentionally, I wind up having that happen to me a lot. And it's sort of like a merging of the two, of SATS and the Lullaby method. So long-winded short, yes, you can absolutely do both. Since creation is finished, can manifestation happen through direct reality shifts? Or does it always have to be through movement / rearrangement and physical reality? That is a good question. I'm not 100% making sure that does it always have to be through movement / rearrangement of physical reality? So most of the time, manifestation does unfold very naturally. That's why for most of us, it seems like it's something that would have happened that way anyways. It looks a lot like coincidence, just how things can unfold. But that said, and I'm not 100% sure that I'm following your question, but if you mean, can we see a very rapid change through shifting states? I mean, the answer is yes, naturally, because creation is finished. You nailed that. It's right on the head. Absolutely. I'll no, Adley. Adley has a really good question. What if I am trying to manifest an SP and SP is trying to manifest someone else? What happens then? And I mean, that's again, it sounds like something that could happen, right? What if we are manifesting somebody, but they're manifesting somebody else? Well, thankfully, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. See, in your awareness, in your experience as sort of you know game player number one, it's going to be up to you how people conform. It's going to be people are going to show up in a based on whatever we believe and assume is true. So it's not anything we have to worry about as far as competition or as far as you know people picking somebody else over us, because again, we have in our experience this incredible power that allows us to move into any state and have any kind of experience. So if you are currently in a state where your SP is trying to chase somebody else, you can change that. You can, through imagination, you can move into a state where it is now the version of them that is chasing after you, because all things are real right now, because everything is finished, everything is complete. So competition is never a thing that we have to worry about. It's just not. It's just not. Kevin, hey Missy, love your videos. Thank you. Can physical things appear and then disappear when shifting realities? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It really, sometimes, because the thing we got to remember is we're always shifting between different states or different realities. It's something we're doing all the time. It's just, it could be so slight. The difference can be so slight that we would never be able to consciously pick up on it. That said, we can absolutely move into, we can make a more drastic jump, so to speak, where something is obviously different, something is obviously like a physical object or something being off 100%. That and that has happened to me. Oh, you were so sweet, SB. Thank you. Ashley, can you manifest a visualization that you are not present for? Example: visualizing SP sitting at home on the couch, staring off in space, thinking about you. Can you manifest visualization? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, can you manifest a scene that is not you physically present there? Like, can you imagine for somebody else that is, not in your physical vicinity? Absolutely. Absolutely. Though I personally recommend being there, you don't have to. Yeah. If you imagine this person is thinking about you all the time, then naturally that is what is going to come to pass. Oh, all right. Oh, I lost my place. Charlie, hi, Missy. Can we just do sats every day, or do we need to be doing something during the day? In some of your videos, you say to just do sats, and in others you say you have to do more than that. Please explain. Huh. Well, if I made any kind of contradictions or sounded confusing, I do apologize. I do apologize. I don't remember ever saying that you just need to do sats and that's it. But to answer your question, we do want to make sure that we are consistently occupying that desired state. So it's not enough to just do a technique once for 5 minutes in a day, and then the rest of the day we are dwelling somewhere terrible. The rest of the day we're fighting with our person in imagination, or we're, you know, anxious and spinning and spiraling essentially. It's not enough to just do one thing for a sliver and then spend the rest of your time in the unwanted state of consciousness. So it is about, like, as much as you are able to practice moving to that place in imagination. Live in that state in imagination. Like, be that person in imagination as much as you can. Because we manifest who we believe ourselves to be. We manifest what we believe and assume is true. And it's what takes up occupancy, like it's what takes up real estate in our mind. So where are we more often than not? Are we spending the day confident in ourselves and confident in our abilities and at ease? Are we at peace? Are we just kind of going with the flow and we're having a good time here? Or are we spending the day stressing the hell out? If it's the latter, yeah, we don't want to be doing that. Yeah. So it's not enough. The techniques themselves are not the thing that manifests. I cannot state that enough. Oh my goodness, LJ, I'm so sorry to hear that. So LJ asked basically, how do we change the old story if something happened to us that makes it so we literally cannot remember the old story? Like if you had health ailment or something happened where you don't remember. If you don't remember the old story, like how do you change that? And that's a really, really good question because, for a lot of people, they can't remember maybe every detail of what happened. And if that's the case, we just want to create a new story instead. Create a new story. So instead of taking the event that had happened, the negative event or the unwanted event that happened, you would instead construct in your mind a desired outcome instead. So even if it was something completely unrelated to that physical 3D experience, if you can't recall what it was that you want, if you know that you went through something bad but you don't remember exactly what it was, you know work with what you can. But if you don't remember any of it, construct a whole new memory entirely. And that is also very much revision. That is very much revision. And I did talk about that in the last revision video that I made, um, the one where I go a bit more in depth and answer some more common questions about revision. Definitely check out that video if you haven't seen it yet. But if we cannot revisit the old story for whatever reason, construct a new memory entirely. Kayla, is asking about, I want to manifest consistently making 5 figures per month and living a freedom lifestyle. That sounds awesome. Yes. When I get a biz idea to make money, I feel resistance to act. Why is that? Am I trying to control the outcome? That could be one factor, but more likely than not, there's a story, there's a limiting belief or story in there about money. Resistance, all resistance is, what that is when we have a desire and a conviction that are in conflict with each other. So if I desire, to have $1 billion, and I also have a lot of conceptions and limiting beliefs around money, and I live in a very scarcity mindset, a very poverty induced state, there's going to be resistance there because those two things are very much in conflict. So if you're getting, and this goes for anything, this goes, money, love, relationships, whatever it might be. If there is a sort of resistance there, it's because there's two things at conflict, and that's where we want to, really become aware of why am I feeling resistance to this? What is it within me that is trying to push back against this desire? You know, and really go and do some searching, because it's going to be a bit different for everybody. Everybody's from different walks of life, different sets of beliefs, but generally speaking, there is overlap. And when it comes to money, especially, it tends to come from a lot of our money story, our money beliefs. Especially if you grew up poor, if you grew up in poverty, or if you've struggled since being an adult, yeah, there's likely going to be a lot of resistance there. But I would definitely, anytime that's coming up for you, like, take a moment and really shine a spotlight as to why am I feeling this resistance? Like, what is the driver here? Like, what is the pushback here? And hone in on what that may be. So you can become more and more aware of, when it does come, when those feelings do come up, you're like, okay, I know why this is happening. It becomes easier to reject it versus if we're just in the dark and we don't understand why we're having so much resistance to something, right? And when we figure out what those beliefs are, we can begin to really revise them and recondition them. John asks, what's a good way to manifest greater self-esteem as well as self-assertiveness? In other words, getting rid of timidity in person. Timidity? I can't talk today. Getting rid of timidity in personal interactions. So what's a great way to manifest greater self-esteem and self-assertiveness? And honestly, one of the best ways that you can do that is really see yourself in a situation in imagination. Hear confirmation from loved ones in imagination. One of my favorite techniques is the telephone technique, or having a conversation with somebody in imagination and hearing the confirmation of whatever it is that is desired. So in this case, have an imaginal conversation with someone and hear them tell you, like, oh my God, dude, you have grown so much confident in these days. Like, what did you do? What's your secret? You used to be so timid. Now you're just oozing charisma, things like that. These are examples, but hear the confirmation, see the confirmation, right? Whatever that looks like, whatever that feels like for you. But I found that is a way to sort of, like, it feels a bit more natural if we're having interactions in imagination with friends and loved ones. Or, imagine that you are, out on a date and you're getting confirmation from You get the point. Go there in imagination. See it, hear it, really experience it to the best of your ability. Magic A has a really good question. Missy, I wanted to manifest my SP, but I manifested a new one instead with everything that I desired. My question is why it came in a new version, in a new person, and not the old one. So, why do we manifest a new SP? And I mean, the most common reasons that I see that happening is because of the old stories that we have with that old SP. In cases that I've seen where people manifested a new partner, a new specific person, it may have all the same qualities. You may have all the same things that we're looking for in a person, but basically everything showed up, but not in SP's body. And that usually stems from a lot of the old story that we're carrying when it comes to that person specifically. So it may have been easier for you to go and prepare a place where it was just all the qualities of your specific person, but a different face to them, if that makes sense. If you need me to elaborate a little bit more, I can. But in essence, it's resistance that we have to the old story and our old story with that person. And sometimes it does come for some people with less effort to manifest the same qualities, but in a new person entirely. Isabella, if I am manifesting, hi Missy, if I am manifesting confidence, what do I do in those moments of deep insecurity? Do I just continue doing sats at night? Another really good question. And in those moments of deep insecurity, and they can and do come up sometimes on this journey, the best thing that we can do is, well, again, kind of going back to what I was talking about in the earlier questions, practice the art of detachment, practice the art of the more, and I know I talk about detachment and observation a lot, but the more that you do that, the more that you can start to sort of look at what you're doing from a more objective standpoint instead of being in the throes of this emotion or in the throes of this feeling of deep insecurity. It's we begin to sort of see it as we would, looking at it like a third party objective, a third person objective. And the importance of this is because if it feels like, we're in the throes of this thing, we're not going to be able to do much in that moment. Like if we are having a really strong reaction and it's not a good one, in that moment, there's not a whole lot you can do except wait for it to subside and then revise it. We can always go back and revise it later, but, trying to, get yourself out of the throes of that when you're already in it is going to be very, very, very challenging. And it's not one that I would recommend doing. So practice self-observation and detachment. Practice when you notice this feeling, if you notice this emotion coming up and you notice that, okay, I'm starting to feel really out of my element here. Like, don't judge it. See it for what it is. And then eventually it will subside. It will subside. You will, not be in the throes of that anymore. And then you can revise it. You can erase it. But I would practice doing something like that. If you are practicing sats at night, that is fantastic. Definitely keep doing that. But if the only thing that you're doing is sats at night and not really, paying attention to mental diet and being observant, I would start really ramping that up, ramping up the mental diet, ramping up the self-observation. Definitely, definitely. And it gets to a point where you're not anywhere near as attached to that, so you don't get sucked in to the throes of those feelings and those fears and insecurities anymore. Roberta N asks, would it be better to revise each event that's a bad memory with my SP, or can I write a new story of how we met and progressed and read it every day? Would that be as effective? You can absolutely do that. Yeah. You can absolutely. So I went through when I, and I've talked about this many times, but when I was going through my shit, for lack of better words, I revised a lot of things a lot of the events that happened to me, not just related to my person, but going back to childhood, hundreds of events, hundreds of, situations that I felt had an impact on me. But and it was incredibly effective. And I can say that, probably more than anything, that was the thing that really discarded that old state for good. That's what helped me move into this new state and maintain it for good. However, that's not the only way we have to go about revising. You can absolutely write a new story. Our memories are just imaginal acts. And there's a freedom that comes with that knowing, because we can change imaginal acts. We can manifest new ones. We can go anywhere in imagination and experience a completely different outcome. Now, it feels like a memory is solid and you can't change it, but that's not true. So knowing and understanding that, you can absolutely go back and write a whole new story, like a whole new interaction. This is how you met instead. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Do not underestimate the power of revision, you guys. I'm telling you. Hey, Missy. Oh, this is a good one. Jana asks, "Hey, Missy, how do you envision yourself fitting into somebody else's life when you really don't know what that's going to look like?" I'm floundering with it a little, and that's understandable. But I want to ask you, and I want to counter that with, why are you envisioning yourself fitting into somebody else's life? Why not them fitting into yours? And by that I mean, what would you be doing? Like, what is your desire with this person? Like, what is the life that you desire to live with this person? Go there. Go there, whatever that looks like. Whatever that looks like. You know, they will conform to the you will move into a state where that is how they're going to show up. So if we're spending time stuck on, well, what would I be doing with them? What would it look like? Trying to think of it from their perspective. No. What would you be doing in your day to day? What do you enjoy doing? What are some things that, give you life? What are some things that excite you? What are some things that, you know, you want to check off on the bucket list, so to speak? And go there. Go there. The imagination is limitless. Limitless. We can do anything. We can go anywhere. We can be whatever, whoever we want. If we're getting stuck, it's because we're thinking way too narrowly. We are really narrowing that box for us. So expand it, expand on it, definitely, and have fun with it, because it is. It's so much fun. This is your world that you get to go into and shape and mold. Have fun with it. Oh, oh, the whole thing shifted. I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep in order here. John says, "What's a good way to manifest greater?" Oh wait, no, I just lost your question. Oh, here we go. How to approach manifesting a specific person when the idea of her just not caring about my very existence seems stubbornly immovable. Ghosted. And again, because of how conditioned we are to 3D circumstances, it can feel very difficult to remove ourselves from that. But, again, I challenge you to go into imagination, not for the sake of getting something. I don't want you to imagine with the, intent to get something. I want you to go into imagination. I challenge you. I challenge you. Go into imagination to just experience that for the sake of experiencing it because it feels good. Because in imagination, we can hang out with the version of SP that is awesome and they do love us and they are happy to see us and they are very grateful for our existence and they don't suck, right? We want to go there because that place is awesome, right? The 3D, that version sucks. We don't want to entertain that version. That's no. So I challenge you, like, and this goes for anyone, whatever you're trying to do. If you're doing this from a place of like, I need to obtain this thing, it's going to feel that much more challenging, especially if the 3D is stark opposite, right? So go to prepare a place because it feels nice. It feels good. Because we can go anywhere and do anything in imagination. So why would we not want to spend our time somewhere that is awesome with somebody who is awesome? Yeah. So that's my challenge to you, John. Hi, Missy. What is the best way to manifest something on a time crunch? Ooh, ooh. The best way to manifest something on a time crunch is to be very detached from the 3D circumstance. uh, yeah. Um, it's I've manifested many, many things on a time crunch, and sometimes they have not shown up until literally the 11th hour, like looking like it's not going to happen. It's there's no way this is going to happen. So while of course it is, I mean, anything is possible. We can absolutely manifest on a time crunch, so to speak. It is a fantastic way to drive up your anxiety to 11 if we're very much inclined to react to the 3D. So, I'd say if you can avoid doing so, if you struggle with reacting to the 3D and you get anxious about time, the concept of time, it's something that, I would practice on working on those things first and really building up your faith and building up your trust to a good degree. Now, if you're in a situation where it seems like you don't have an option, like something is coming down the pike and it's, you know, whether or not you like it, it's coming. Um, One thing to practice is again just going back and reading The Pearl of Great Price, which is a fantastic lecture when it comes to motivation, when it comes to reminding us that, hey, we cannot be double-minded about this. Like, you're either in or you're out. You're either occupying that state or you're not. We cannot be in two places at once. And if we continue to go back and forth, it's going to manifest in what appears to us as a time delay. So that was a lecture that I remember going back to often whenever I was feeling the double-minded and the 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because there does need to be a good degree of like stubborn insistent on this is happening. I don't care what the 3D says. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care if it's supposed to be here in 5 minutes and it hasn't shown up yet. It's a done deal. So practice buying that pearl. Practice read that lecture and really digest what that means for you. That helped me considerably. But, do remember that when it comes to manifesting on a time crunch, if we're still very much attached to the concept of time and we're still very much attached to the 3D illusion, it can perceive to be challenging. I will just leave it there. Thank you, Roberta. Simone, can a consistent mental diet trump a belief he may not choose/want me eventually? Like, doesn't saturation lead to a new belief? Also, I heard I don't need to believe that if I know the law is real. Okay, so can a consistent mental diet trump a belief? So our beliefs are formed through, something repetitively happening to us, right? Especially like any beliefs that were formed in our later years, especially like happened over and over again. It's the repetition of something that cements a belief, you know. Also, whatever we grew up with in childhood, those are, specifically our core beliefs. Those definitely came from childhood. But can a consistent mental diet trump a belief? So yes, we can change our beliefs, thankfully. Absolutely. So it is through saturation. Like whatever you're saturating your mind with, whatever is taking up occupancy in imagination, in whatever you're focused on, more often than not, you know, that is ultimately going to be what comes to fruition in your world. It's what we're giving our focus and attention to. Most of the time, it's our beliefs that we give the focus and attention to because we don't even think about it. We have an assumption, and there it is. It shows up. But yes, this is the point of what we want to do. Through saturating our mind with the desired outcome instead, we can overcome whatever stupid limiting beliefs that were formed. An assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. It's a really good question. All right, I got time for maybe one or two more, and then I do have to get going. You guys, these are great questions today. Seriously, y'all are killing it. Oh, AG, yay! I will meet you later then. That will be awesome. Kayla has a really good question. What's the difference between taking inspired action versus controlling the outcome? When it comes to acting on a desire, is it supposed to feel natural and easy, or just allow it to come to us? So, inspired action, and I did make a video, it was one of the first videos that I made talking about inspired action versus trying to control or manipulate the outcome. And I mean, the difference being is that inspired action is one that is subconscious. Like we're not trying to consciously figure out what's going to happen, and we're not trying to, force or move these obstacles into submission, so to speak. Like we're not trying to figure out the how. If it's inspired action, it's going to happen naturally, seamlessly. Whatever needs to unfold to bring you from where you are to that outcome, to that end. If it's inspired action, it's going to feel seamless. And we've all had those experiences where it seems like everything just perfectly fell into place and this amazing thing transpired. We've all had instances where that's been the case. That's inspired action, where you barely had to do anything, if anything, to get to that desired outcome, whether it's, your person or buying a new house or, money, new business, success, whatever it might be. Yeah, the inspired action is not coming from a place of like conscious effort of us trying to figure out how it's going to happen. Yeah. And it should feel natural because it is. Because it is. I have trouble accepting good things. How can I stop pushing away good manifestations in my life? Number one, start paying attention to why it is that you're pushing those things away. Like, why aren't you worthy of good things? What is it? What is it exactly that's making it so you're pushing these things away? Really pay attention as to what is the process, what is the mental gymnastics that goes through that, right? And then we imagine the opposite. We imagine the opposite. You can stop pushing away good things when you begun to really impress and imagine and see yourself as a person who is worthy and deserving of good things. So go there in imagination. All the things that you want. Go there and see yourself accepting them in imagination. See yourself getting them. Whether it's gifts, opportunities, whatever it might be. Start seeing yourself as that person who welcomes good things and is knowing of their worth. So pay attention as to, what is the reasons that you're pushing things away, so you can be aware if you're doing it. You start becoming conscious and stop yourself before you start subconsciously doing it, and practice saturating your mind with what you do want and saturating your mind with accepting all the good things and knowing that you deserve every single one of them. Isabella, yes. When you say observe your doubts, do you mean just don't engage in them? Just let them be there and be okay with feeling it. Yes. So, okay. When it comes to observation, and I'm gonna make video talking more about this, but there's a lot of times we are fearful of our own thoughts, and we get scared of allowing ourselves to feel anything. And so what happens, especially as we're, on this manifestation journey and trying to consciously create something, if we have a negative feeling start to come up, if we feel ourselves getting anxious or angry, we'll try to just like shove it down, shove it down, shove it down. Don't give it the time of day. We don't want to do that because suppressing it is not going to make it go away. It's going to amplify it. So become aware of it, see it for what it is, and eventually it dissipates. It goes away. I mean, we're never up like here all the time. If we get angry, we get angry and then we come back down again. We have a moment where we're sad, we come back down again. And I'm talking about, those moments of extreme reactions, right? Know that you're going to come back around that bend. You can always come back and revise it later. But when we become fearful of our thoughts and these emotions, we turn to suppressing it. And suppression is only going to magnify it and blow it up. So yes, absolutely. Observe your doubts, observe the reactions, observe the thoughts, but do it from a place of no judgment and no attachment. Just what it is. Because you're not those thoughts. Because we're not our emotions. We are just the observer who is aware of them. So yes, yeah. Let them be. Sit with it. If it's a terrible feeling, if it's a bad reaction, we can come back and revise it later once we're feeling calmer, once we've come down a little bit. That is a very important thing to note. Christine Williams, hello. You did. You caught the tail end of the. You got the tail end of it. I'm gonna wrap up here. I'm gonna do one more question, guys. Um, da-da-da. And Katie, I have not forgotten about you. I will actually follow up with you on that thread that you left, on that comment thread, and get to yours. But is it possible my manifestation can't happen? I've been trying to manifest Rochelle for a very long time, like 9 months. Now things are getting worse between me and her. Is it possible manifestation can't happen? So if you're noticing things are getting worse, if you're noticing that you're beginning to feel worse and it's taking a toll on you, I recommend, doing whatever you need to do first to take care of you, whatever that looks like. Is what I don't want to see happen for anybody is like it, we deteriorate. Can your manifestation not show up? Well, here, I don't know the specifics of your situation. I'll say that first and foremost, right off the bat. I'm not able to literally take a peek in your mind right now. But what I would be focusing on right now is really seeing, like, becoming more and more aware of where your focus and attention is during the day. A lot of times we might think that we're living in the end. A lot of times we might think that we're doing things right because we're applying this technique like it's a box ticking exercise, but all day we're having inner arguments, or we are filled with anger or doubt, or having fights with ourselves. And it's really about becoming attentive and aware of where are you dwelling in consciousness. That has to be one of the first things that we really begin to pay attention to. Like, because we have been so asleep for so long and we're subconsciously on autopilot, just doing and reacting, it's easy to overlook where we might be missing the mark. It could be easy to overlook where we might be sinning, basically, missing the intended outcome. And that's okay. We're having a human experience. That's going to happen. But, in cases where it feels like it's hopeless, or that you want to give up, or if it feels like it's never going to happen. I mean, I've personally been there thousands of times myself on my journey. So I completely relate to that. But, I want to make sure, and this goes for all of you, really begin to see yourself more and more, like, ramp up that mental diet. Where are you dwelling in consciousness? Are you checking in with yourself? Are you catching yourself as you're having these, inner fightings, inner talkings? Are you allowing them to play out? Are you like, oh, but let me just finish this one thought. I just, I gotta stick it to them. Like, let me just stick it to them real quick and then I'll drop it. Like, when I began to do self-inquiry, I did not realize just how much garbage I was hanging on to. And this has been the case too for a lot of the people that I've talked to and worked with. So really be mindful throughout your day to day, because as you see it more and more, the more that you become aware to what you're doing, you're going to be better able to detach from it. And ultimately, we're all trying to do one thing and one thing only. We're trying to detach from that old unwanted state of consciousness and instead attach yourself to the desired state instead, the desired outcome instead. Like, no matter what you're trying to manifest, that is the aim for everyone here. So the first step is observation. To successfully detach, we first need to be conscious of what all we're doing that is keeping us in this state. Okay. And really also don't forget to take care of yourself, whether it's, like treat yourself to something nice, do something for yourself, that because if it can be very exhausting on this journey if we're not paying attention, if we're not careful, if we're not taking care of ourselves. Okay? And I say this with all the love in the world because I love you guys. It is a learning process. It is absolutely. And then that's, another important thing to note. This is all radically new for us. Like, we were taught and we were conditioned something completely different. So this is a learning curve. It really is. So do not be too hard on yourselves. And I know it's easier said than done because I was the queen of beating the shit out of myself. But that serves no purpose and helps no one. And I mean that with all the love, you guys. Ramp up that mental diet. That's what I'm talking about. Yes. Oh, damn it. How is it already one? Time flies when I'm on this thing. You guys, so much love to all of you. I noticed that there were a lot more people today. I guess Mondays are a good day for a lot of people. That's awesome. So I will be doing another live again shortly. Love you all dearly. If I didn't answer your question or I didn't get back to you again, I sincerely apologize. But we'll be back to do this again soon. Much, much love to all of you. If you have, don't forget to check out all the things in the description box, and I will be back soon for more Q&As. Bye, guys.